Marcus, Limburg. How's you guys' trades going?
Sean, trades going up only.
Up only.
Well, how much coin you have?
How much coin have you? Not enough. I don't have enough coin. I need more Bitcoin. Well, first of all, welcome everybody to episode 21 of Bitcoiner's Guide. Obviously, Plan Marcus and Big Sean Harris are up in here, and we have a special guest today, 21st episode. We got Limburg, aka Ghost of Limburg, joining us. How you doing, man? How you doing? You enjoying this time right now?
Yeah, hi guys. Really happy to be here. It's awesome, and let's see where this goes. And happy to be on the number 21 show.
Yes. So are we.
Yes.
For anyone who's new, this is Bitcoiner's Guide, the show we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. Just wanted to timestamp and price stamp currently where I am. It is Monday, July 11th, 4:22 p.m. And the current price of Bitcoin is 20,100 and some change, down about 3% in the last 24 hours. So Bitcoin's doing its thing. As always, we got cheap Bitcoin going on, and we got a couple of Dutch Bitcoiners up in the show. Before we get in, which we have a really fun show, I'm excited for it. We just wanted to introduce Mr. Ghost of Limburg, Mr. Limburg. Anything that you want to tell us or tell these Bitcoiners about yourself before we get into it?
Yeah, sure. All right. So I'm Limburg3rt. That was my first Twitter account. Got killed. We all know that. So now it's the Ghost Limburg3rt. And I'm an humble plebs tech and sets. I might not be the smartest. I ran into Bitcoin around 2011 for the first time.
Wow.
Ignored it. 2013, I bought some. Way too not enough, of course, never enough.
Never.
And from that time on, it took me till 2018 to really fall down the rabbit hole. And then it was a crazy week, a week of no sleep, no eat, just reading, watching YouTube, studying Bitcoin. And it took me 1 week to really go down the rabbit hole. Sold all my shitcoins, which was at the time mostly Ethereum. Before that, I really was the guy who thought blockchain is going to change the world and all that shit, blah, blah, blah.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. So got cured and been a maxi ever since. And I must say, especially also all the great memes, shout out to the meme factory, helped a lot in my journey. The really maxi plebs, the toxic maxi plebs, the memers, all very important. Besides, of course, the great Bitcoiners like Amus, Swanholm, you can name them all, you know.
Yeah.
Fractal Encrypt, you had him last week. Awesome. Yeah. That was the one I watched live. I'm a big fan. I'm key number 5 out of 210.
Wow.
And normally I watch the show the day after because it's really in the middle of the night here.
Yeah.
Hold on, slow down, because key number 5 out of 210. What is that?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Plebs know. The public keys from Fractal Encrypt, and it's a series of private and public keys. The private keys, there are 21 of them, and the public keys there are 210 of them. And I got lucky enough to get one, and I've got number 5. And you should check Fractal Encrypt out. You find the keys on his Twitter. It's really awesome to own a bit from Fractal. His art is amazing.
I agree, because he makes some amazing art. But then he makes like the Bitcoin full node, right? That's the one you see in Sailor.
Yeah, that was a bit out of my budget.
Yeah. But so you own a public key. Is that an actual
Yeah.
address?
Yeah, true. Also, yes, it's it's also an address. Um, and you find on internet also a lot of stories about it where he explains a lot of things, but there's a lot of technical stuff going around also with the keys, the way he made the addresses. It's really awesome what that guy does. But I have heard last week where the inspiration partly comes from. Lots of LSD.
Yes.
And he and he's way out of this world, and his art shows.
Yeah, you gotta, a true artist, you have to have your mind open. So whatever you gotta do to open up your mind, I'm not judging.
I
He
think
put
he
some
is
real
really
intricate work
open.
in there. Yeah, I can totally imagine you need to be a little bit trippy to be that creative.
Yeah, I've had my tripping days, if I can say, years back when I was a bit younger. But when I meet him, I will trip along.
You
Well,
have
thanks
a,
for confirming all the Dutch stereotypes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do you also walk on wooden shoes?
No, 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 no. But the farmers do, and we see a lot of farmers these days, of course.
You guys do see a lot of farmers these days. Let's that's funny because we were going to talk about the Dutch farmers, and I mean there's kind of a thing going on right now, like what we had in Canada with the trucker convoy. You're seeing that the farmers, they're feeling a little slighted, and I kind of want to just hear from you guys. Like, what's your perspective on everything? You guys are actually there in the Netherlands while all this is going down. Have you guys seen these farmers coming through towns? Have like what is it like for you guys to experience it? And do you think Bitcoin could help out with what's going on out there?
You want to start, Limburg?
It's yeah, okay. Well, to be honest, I have not seen the farmers coming through my street. I live in a, a smaller town, um, uh, close to the bigger cities, Rotterdam, The Hague. Um, but it's I could visit a protest, and I might do that in the near future, because I think more and more just civilians, citizens are connecting with the farmers. A lot of people stand behind them. I think the protest is growing. I have a flag outside, and it's a sign of support for the farmers, not just a Dutch flag, but to hang it upside down. And I have the flag upside down just to show others my support for the farmers. But a lot of things I see is, of course, a lot of things are on Twitter, etc. And it's everywhere. It's one time they go to the city where the government is, another time it's in the city in other country. They block highways. It's really active, and they are fighting for something. They're fighting for their existence, really. And there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and nobody trusts the government. We have a government. Well, in my view, they have been lying for like I don't know, 20 years, whatever. And it's the same with, I think, everywhere. I see the same shit in America. I see the same shit. We got the same shit from the EU, from Brussels, from The Hague, our own government. Who can you trust? You can't trust nothing. You can't trust the data. You can't trust the people. You can't trust the politicians. It's really crazy times.
So what's the exact reason, if any, just to make sure that if anyone hasn't heard about it or hasn't dug into it, what's the exact reason that the farmers are protesting? Maybe Marcus, if you know, or
Well, I can try to explain. I won't claim to be an expert on this field because I've been watching very little mainstream media for like the past 3 years. I really like try to just stop watching the news just to give myself just as an intro.
Is it covered in
But
mainstream
yeah,
media?
one thing I've noticed, right? One thing I've noticed, and what I really want to say is it's been kind of double, right? Because I've also been one who's been tweeting a lot about a WF and asking a lot of WEF and asking a lot of questions and stuff. But the thing is, there has been talk about like because the essence of the problem is the cow shit, right? Cows produce a lot of shit. And I remember like back in 1995, when I was still a teenager, there was already a lot of talk about mestoverschot, which is a Dutch word for too much cow
Too
shit.
much
There's
shit.
like too much shit in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. Yeah, we've got like, we're a small country, small area of look on the world map, you can hardly find us, on most maps. We're really small. So I know that this, quote unquote problem has been around and has been debated in politics for decades, right? So it's not something that's just popped up in the last couple of months or last couple of years. And so this problem of too much, what is it? I don't know what's the English word, not nitrogen, stickstoff.
Yeah, I think it's nitrogen.
I think it is
Is it
nitrogen.
nitrogen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that cows produce too much nitrogen, or shit produces too much nitrogen. It affects like the local environment and the air quality. And basically what has happened is that the Netherlands had, at some European level, they've promised years ago that by 2030, they were going to cut emissions, in a broader package of climate goals, that they were going to cut emissions.
Yeah.
And part of that plan was to reduce the number of livestock in the Netherlands. So they weren't going to eradicate it completely, but they did want to bring the number of like cow heads, or the number of the livestock, they want to reduce it. So now, years later, we have a cabinet in office that is really pushing through, and are now saying, okay, they've been and please correct me where I'm wrong, Limburg, or please just add on. They've been sending letters to these farmers saying that, look, like we've talked long enough. Now it's time for you to reduce the numbers, and we're willing to compensate you for it, so you can sell your farm to us, or you're just going to have to keep going, but then you're going to have to reduce the numbers, right? So these farmers are being put in a position where, like, oh, so now I'm being offered money, and if I don't take it, I'll probably lose the money, and then I might lose my farm as well, So it's like kind of like an option, but it's not really an option. And is it a fair price? I don't want to sell my farm because this is generation on generation and generation.
Yeah.
Because what are you doing to the country? So basically, government is fucking with people's lives. From
Definitely.
central planners, centrally planning stuff, and yeah, like. There are always, yeah, go ahead, please jump in.
Yeah, also to put this in perspective, I think the biggest food exporter of farmers' products, the biggest food exporter in the world is the United States, but the number second is the Netherlands.
Wow.
For a small country like ours to be the second, that's really insane, and that's partly because of the big war, the Second World War, 40-45. We had the last winter of that war. There was really hunger. People were dying from hunger, and after the war, they said, "Okay, we got to really. Those farmers have to produce enough. We never want hunger again in this country," and that grew in those years to become a very, very efficient, lots of producing industry.
Yep.
Really, so it grew really big. But if you look at what part of the Netherlands at this moment is used for buildings and what is for nature and for the farmers, it's only like not even 15% of the country is being built on. So there's still a lot of room.
There's a lot
But
of,
nevertheless, a lot of space.
Yeah, a lot of ag land that's not even, there's nothing on it.
Yeah, exactly. At least no buildings. But we also at this moment we have tons of crisis. We have a crisis with refugees. We have a crisis in healthcare. We have a crisis, the Corona crisis. Of course, we just had. We have a crisis in financial sector coming. Inflation definitely, but truly also housing. People can't buy houses. They're out of reach. There's too little, not enough housing for people. Everywhere you look, no matter what sector you look, it's crisis. So it's really fucked up. But the nitrogen part That's
And I just
crazy.
want
It's
to,
not just
push
yeah.
back on that a little bit, Limburg, because we love, we love to point out stuff that's really shitty. But at the same time, for people who've been to the Netherlands is one of the richest countries in the world. And I love, especially Americans like to shit on Europe and just call it Europe. But there's a lot of differences between Europe, right? So if you're in Spain, is a lot
Yeah.
different from the Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of the richest. I mean, our roads,
True.
like people love to talk about their roads, but the roads are really good.
Sure.
All the
Sure.
IT is really good. I know the Netherlands is often used by many IT companies, as
The
as
coffee
a
shops are amazing out there as well.
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. No, but it's a country full of highly educated people. Like most people are not overweight, by the way. Anyway,
Yeah. No,
no,
I've
no,
been to. I've
I'm
been.
telling you, when you travel to the Netherlands, it's some of those places you can compare it to Switzerland pretty much. People always talk about Switzerland as like this example, but the Netherlands is probably just as rich and as organized as Switzerland.
I've
So
been. I've been to
just
Amsterdam,
to just to
and
not beat on the Netherlands as if like we're this crazy country. No, it's so that's always been a struggle for me. At the same time, it's like, yeah, all these politicians are shit. At the same time, the Netherlands does have a history of doing economically really strong, especially for such a small country. So in that
True.
sense, it is really weird that like agriculture is a strong export product of the Netherlands. We have all this technology, like we have greenhouses with like where everything is automated and we produce like tons and tons, not only like cucumbers and everything that grows in a greenhouse, but also like the whole flower sector. This is like a high tech, it's like a Formula One of agriculture when you combine like agriculture and technical know-how. There's a lot of that here,
True.
and they also export a lot of that knowledge around the globe. So it's a
Yeah,
very
one great example, by the way, is when America, the USA, started acting normal around marijuana, and it's now in a lot of states it's legal to grow in the US, but
yeah,
there are a lot of Dutch businesses who put up the glass houses over there and the automated how do you call it to grow the cannabis over in the US. Most of it, a lot of it is built by the Dutch, so that's also an export product of us. But nevertheless, Europe has, of course, been printing a lot of money. If you are young and you want to start on the housing market, it's
hmm
almost impossible at this moment to buy a house. That's really shitty for everywhere in the world. We experience that. But if you go back to the nitrogen problem, the crazy part is there's not a country in the world who's looking like this to that problem. So we have to border with Germany and with Belgium, and at the border there's no nitrogen problem anymore. So what's up with that? That's
yeah,
also weird. That can't happen. And it's not only the farmers who have a lot of nitrogen waste, but it's also the industry, like Tata Steel, really big, a lot of
yeah,
nitrogen in the surroundings there, or Rockwool, a big company. So the heavy industry also pollutes a lot. But now to say, okay, the farmers have to get the shit together, but the industry can go on. That's also not fair. And then the data is a lot of discussion about the data. So the farmers have other data, they don't agree. Then there's another the way how they calculate it, and if you
yeah.
can't trust the data, it's really hard to get to get around the table and get to solutions.
So I mean, when I think about all this, right? You think about, okay, if the Netherlands is going to make this switch, then are they hoping that they're kind of like that they're the leaders in Europe, and that other countries in Europe are going to make this switch as well? Is that what their goal is, or do you think it's going to be something like where we talk about the Fed's going to pivot? Do you think that the Netherlands, if they get enough pressure from the farmers and from the citizens, that the Netherlands is going to pivot and take back the law that they just made?
I'm not sure. What is also a big part of it, I think, they can have plans, but what are the real plans behind the plans? We're not sure, because if you also look at it, they say the government wants to build houses, so they need land. They need land, of
Mm,
course, partly from the farmers. But if you buy farming land, you get paid like I looked it up recently, around €5 per square meter. But if it's building land, so they can change it, and then it's building land, you can sell it for
Yeah,
around,
when you change the
what was it,
zoning on the
500
land.
euros. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can buy, they can take it, and the farmer gets like €5 per square meter, and the government can sell it to housing builders for 500 per square meter. So, but they're not open about that. But and there are a lot of things going on. Plan Marcus already mentioned the WEF. Well, it's tricky. It's tricky. But then again, nobody trusts the politicians anymore. So.
oh yeah. One tweet that I thought was somewhat relevant was Saifedean. He just tweeted this out yesterday. He said, "Did you go to a school that taught you that your actions are ruining the weather and your government can fix it by controlling the composition of the atmosphere? Congratulations, you have been inducted into a cult that wants to destroy civilization." So kind of along what we're talking about, right? Like there are a lot of government policies that, and no one can be sure of the data. Is this really affecting the environment? Is it affecting the atmosphere? There's not a lot of other countries that are making these policies around the Netherlands. And so then you go, okay, are they really focused on the atmosphere, or is it an excuse to cut back or to build more housing, or do they want to do some type of controlled demolition too? That's one of those things. Are the government policies actually hurting the people of their own country?
Yeah. There's also this saying or this view that most politicians are like well-intended idiots. Like basically looking for in their job, looking for something solvable, and then they end up looking at the climate, which is surrounded by like vague metrics and something they feel only they can tackle, and that they need to show like we can take charge and we can do this with each other. And they might just be a bunch of well-intended people up there, but in the process of their well intentions, they're working together and they're ruining people's lives. And with a solution which is very hard to measure, as Limburg says, like and a solution to something that's even questionably a problem. But if you even discuss that, then you're going to get labeled like, oh, you're not following the science, or
Yeah,
it's
I don't
surrounded
believe
by all this.
the
But
well-intended part. I'm not so
no,
sure about that.
the thing is, I know quite a bit of politicians and people. I know also, I've worked in a lot of like corporate culture as well, where and like all these people, the higher up, and they're all around The Hague and in companies, and they're all pretty similar in my. I don't want to group people, but in most cases, it
What about
seems like they really.
Orlando Bryson?
Oh no, that's a complete different story out in St. Martin. We'll save that one for another episode. Yeah, that's not.
That's
So
the
I don't
only
know.
politician I know from St. Martin, so that says
Yeah.
enough.
So anyway, yeah, I don't want to speculate too much. There's all these different views on it, but in the end, is it really just like Klaus Schwab, or like, I mean, government is a lot of people work there, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
let me,
also.
if I may.
Yeah, please.
If I may, I think I agree. A lot of local politicians, I think they are well intended, but the bigger the higher up you go, then you really come in in the Hague, the national politics. You come in EU and Brussels, and there, I think other things are important. Like we have just this week, Nelly Smit-Kroes, a famous Dutch politician, went to the EU, worked for the commission, and now a lot of files are leaked just yesterday or the day before, and she
Yeah.
was pushing for Uber. So she was
After
really filling her
she was
pockets.
lobbying for Uber after she started working, and then only like a year later or something, handed in a letter to Juncker, or anyway, somebody head of the EU, to ask for permission, like after she'd been already doing that. So first she worked like really high up as an EU politician in Europe, right? She quit, immediately started working for Uber to lobby for Uber, you know, like the taxi business, which is from a European perspective, an American company coming in to ruin the local taxi market, right? And Uber hires, you know, this European top politician to lobby in their favor, you know, to use her network throughout Europe to, you know, massage other politicians into allowing Uber to operate in different European countries. So there's a slight, you know, people were asking. Anyway, after a year, she applied for permission with the EU because, you know, and that permission was denied. But she kept working for Uber anyway, but unofficially, you know. So this kind
Yeah.
of behavior by politicians just shows how. Anyway, you finish it, Limburg. You brought it up.
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. So the local politicians, yes, I believe they are well intended. They live in the city. They try to help and whatever. But the higher up you go, the darker it gets. I'm sorry, I'm not happy about anything happening in the EU, in The Hague. I don't believe them anymore. They're all liars. We have seen too many examples of things that aren't right, and it's insane that they can keep getting away with all that shit. So I just don't trust them.
So,
And to come
okay.
back to your first point, Sean, it's
Yeah.
like what happens now is that what you see is that, you know, it all starts at the top and they start centrally planning something. And now we're at this point where like the rubber meets the road, right? Where they're actually sending letters to these farmers and telling them, all right, sell your business now, or, you know, close shop. And that's when the protest starts happening, right? Because
Yeah, because I mean,
people
imagine.
in the Netherlands, they stay calm, they stay, you know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
decent, and you know, they'll send letters and they'll, but the government was saying no, 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 and they just weren't listening anymore. And now these people are really driven into a corner. And I just literally the past 3 years I spent up north out in the in farmers country. And just driving there, all along the highway, you'll see like the upside down flag, you know, which is a sign of distress, you know, country at war. So instead of red, white, and blue, we've got blue, white, and red everywhere. Some farmers hung them like half stick, you know, half mast.
Yeah, half mast.
Everywhere there's like billboards and banners on Passovers, you know, the farmers have hung. And another thing that you see driving around is a lot of cars, especially up north, they all have this red handkerchief tied to their car, whether it's the mirror or outside, as a sign of support for the farmer. It's like a farmer's handkerchief. So it's very much, and all the signs were saying this cabinet, you know, our political party, this cabinet has to go. That's the most, the one I've seen the most.
Well, imagine.
And as Bitcoiners, as we're all being Bitcoiners, we know about all the ESG bullshit.
Yes.
And whether it's Bitcoin mining, oh, it's bad for the environment, and we know politicians get votes for that. Younger people, oh, he's green, I'm going to vote for them. They believe all that shit, but we know how much FUD is going around in the ESG bullshit everywhere, and this is sort of like the same. And on the other hand, we have the war in Ukraine, and we see a lot of developing countries. We're gonna get a lot of hunger in the world, I'm afraid. I think the worst thing you can do right now is to attack the farmers. Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy. We've seen Sri Lanka. They really got wrecked on ESG compliance bullshit. They forbid the fertilizers or artificial fertilizers. You have biological fertilizers, which is just cow shit, and you have artificial fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
But Sri Lanka decided, I don't know, 2018 or whatever, to go really green. Directly, crops went down, everything went down. Now they're totally wasted, and a lot of other stuff happening also. But ESG is a big part of why Sri Lanka is totally wrecked at this moment.
Well, it makes me think of Germany, right? When you had Greta Thunberg going around telling everyone that they were going to ruin the world because of fossil.
How dare you?
Yes, how dare you, right? So you have Germany shuts down their fossil fuels and their coal and things like that, their natural gas. And so then
nuclear.
they rely, but they shut it down. So now you rely on a foreign country to produce your energy. And then what happens? And that foreign country goes to war with a country that you're quote unquote an ally with. And now all those prices go up, or you don't get your energy. So the question is too, it's like, could the Netherlands go from being the second, number 2 in the world in exporting food to not even having enough food for its own country?
No, because look,
Yeah.
not yet, because right now it's only hitting like dairy cows. So it's only cows that produce milk and stuff. But the thing is, these farmers are saying, you see, today it's us dairy farmers, but next year it might be like the greenhouse guys.
Yeah.
Year after that, it might be like the meat producers, but
exactly. And it's even crazier.
Time, what bothers me is that, like, honestly, mainstream media, you just see them trying to control the narrative. It's not like media is independent anymore. No, you can clearly see that they have to follow the narrative of the government, so that's very frustrating when they under-report on it. And when they do report on it, they try to put the farmers like in this minority position. Yeah, it's just a handful of farmers. And, like the climate issue is really an issue. And yeah, to me, that's the big frustrating part. And you also notice that like we had the same thing with like the whole COVID stuff. There were like massive protests going on, like against the mandatory jab, against using QR codes for entry everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just completely underreported. But that was worldwide, just like the Canadian truckers, like it took a long time before that. And most normies have no idea there was a Canadian trucker protest, to be honest.
No, that's
it's crazy.
And it makes me even wonder if how many people know about the farmers protest that's going on right now in the Netherlands. But it's clear that ESG is communism. It's a pseudo communism that is just used to create a regulated moat, and that way the people at the top can control everyone down, and by a phantom, right? The phantom being ESG, and they can come up with their own numbers whenever they want to, and they can take anyone out of business that they want to and just say that they're not ESG compliant. So I guess, the last thing on this, how do you think that Bitcoin could play a role in fixing, because we say Bitcoin fixes this, right? Or fixes a lot of things. Do you think this is something that Bitcoin would affect, and how could it affect it or make it better?
I think it's for a lot of farmers, it's way too early. Bitcoin is not on their map. And it's really unfortunate because, of course, we all know about really owning something like Bitcoin and its freedom. And I don't know, I think the euro has to get wrecked really hard before people wake up to Bitcoin. There are a lot of Bitcoiners in the Netherlands. We have a lot of meetings. Shout out to the Note Runners, by the way, Dutch maxi Pleb group, really awesome group. But normies, they have to really get waken up, and I'm not sure if this is going to do it right now. Not sure.
I think today the euro got parity with the dollar, which, I mean, a year ago.
I didn't check.
Yeah,
I've been following it closely, but I didn't check the last couple of days.
It's right there. And I mean, a year ago when I was out playing ball in Europe,
look at that.
You're getting paid so much more because I'd take the euros and I bring them back to the United States, right? And so we were getting about $1.20 or maybe $1.10 for every euro. And now it's like, now I'm only getting $1 for every euro.
I read a tweet yesterday about an American expat living in the Netherlands. He had at home for the US, he still had to pay for his college loan. So he was paying that off. And about a year ago, that was no problem because of the euro salary. But now the euro salary has less purchasing power, and his debt is actually increasing compared to his income.
Wow.
So he's getting in trouble because of that. And it was a tweet yesterday, and it got me thinking also. And a lot of expats living in the Netherlands, and if they are from the US, they have a problem right now.
Yeah, you have to. That's why it's important to just keep saving in Bitcoin, because then you don't have to worry about some country's currency or
True.
even the European Union's currency tanking, right? You don't have to worry about getting printed to zero, which
And thank it will. I mean, the Federal Reserve is going the interest rates. They're going harder than the ECB, and the ECB is still negative.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck?
You asked like, what can the farmers do, and does Bitcoin fix this, right?
Yeah.
For me, the farmers are yet just another example of a realization that has set in to me, like not even after I bought Bitcoin for the first time, because the first time I bought Bitcoin, it was mostly just number go up, I'm going to get rich and
Yes.
I'm going to make some money, right? But when you realize, like with Bitcoin, hey, you own you own your private keys, and nobody can move those Bitcoins sitting there with however small or big that number is, nobody, unless I hand over these private keys, right? It's like, it's all with me. Everything else in this world, turns out, you have nothing to say about it. You can be like, yeah, but I own my house and I own my land. No, if the government decides that you're not ESG compliant, you're gone, right? The system can turn on you, right? It'll just be like, look, the majority says this, and you're not allowed to carry guns in the Netherlands. You can't protect anything. You're gone. Banks can cut you off from your bank accounts. We've seen that in Canada with the Canadian truckers. Or if you're, in whatever country where, you're a Dutch farmer. I don't know if they I don't believe they've been cut off from the financial system.
But they can be. I think that's what it is so important, is that if you're a Dutch farmer and you're protesting, you can be cut off from the financial system, just like that.
Anything, right? And you think, no, this is a decent country, and we have, property laws and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but a government can decide differently. They can call an emergency law. They can lock you down.
They can
practically mandate you to do anything, to stay in your home and not do this, not.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is just something that is completely out of their control and their reach, and it gives you a piece of sovereignty. And I think that's the biggest, for me, another example of, look, today's the farmers, the other day is the truckers, and the way what we're heading with society, with central bank digital currencies, where, the war on cash, that they're trying to eliminate cash payments, and everything's going to be electronic. It'll be even easier for people to shut you down.
Yeah.
And then Bitcoin feels so good to have like this backup plan, to this escape outside of their control, which is even a better one. And then we can talk about the whole number go up positive side of it. So it's just this win-win on both sides. So
it is the opt-out. It is, of course, the opt-out of the system, but the shocking realization for me in the Corona era was how many people really comply, and that was shocking to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and we had that in the Netherlands too. I went to a few demonstrations at that time. Was really great, but more not. I went there. A few Bitcoiners were going. Okay, I'm gonna meet Maxis over there. I come.
It's just another meetup.
It was just a meetup for me.
We can orange pill some of these anti-vaxxers.
Oh man, that was awesome. We were walking between hundreds, thousands of people, and we were orange pilling everyone there. Really awesome. I had a great day.
I think it just goes to show how much we really are plebs. The whole world is full of plebs. There's way more plebs, even if you're not a Bitcoiner. Like, these farmers, in my mind, they're everyday people. They're working hard for their money. They don't want to be bothered by the government, and the government comes in and shuts them down. And the same thing with the truckers. And I think what a lot of people, they don't realize is they're fighting for the elite to keep their power instead of fighting for the plebs. Because just like what you said, Marcus, one day it could be these farmers, but in a year from now, it could be whatever industry that you work in. And for some unknown reason,
Yeah, because a lot of people will be watching this and be like, the farmers, and I'm not that worried that it's going to happen to me. It's already happening to you.
Yes.
Because by them running the money printer every day, they're stealing your money from you. They're already, these farmers are getting taxed hard because they have to hand in their their business and their land. But you're getting taxed every day, not by taxes, no, just by them diluting your money, right? They're taking away. It's happening at so many levels, and people just don't realize how Bitcoin literally just fixes that, because it just gives you this fixed amount of a finite supply that nobody can touch. They can't debase you.
Yeah,
They
but
can't move
stop
you
right
out
there.
that position. Go, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy part. Of course, we know that as Bitcoiners, we know that. But the normie people still, okay, right now they are waking up to inflation.
Yeah.
But do they know the cause of inflation? No, it's Putin, it's
No,
Ukraine, it's
they haven't
energy.
connected the dots. No, exactly.
No, they have no idea about printing.
It's crazy. It is kind of crazy how far behind normies are.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoiners, we've been talking about inflation forever. And I remember even talking to my brother about inflation, and he's like, they printed all this money in 2008 and 9 and 10, and we saw no inflation. And I'm like, well, we saw you saw inflation in assets, but a lot of these people don't realize it until it hurts them. And so it is kind of a gift to have something like Bitcoin Twitter. And sometimes it does get a little, conspiracy theorist, but it's good to be open to things that could be happening. And yeah, you don't have to push everything that's going on, but it is good to know, hey, what's going on over here? What do some people think about this? And that doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with them or disagree, but it's just good to hear more sides than the mainstream media propaganda that's kind of shoved down our throat. And that's
But it's hard to be not a conspiracy theorist. Our Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, he has met with Schwab. He went to Davos. He's right now, at this moment, he's in Ukraine. He's talking with Zelensky. They promised again a $200 million and heavy artillery. He's there right now. He has. They found out he received the book, The Great Reset, from Klaus Schwab. He denied it, and then they found a mail from him where he thanked Klaus Schwab for sending the book. And then he said, "Oh no, that's a standard mail. I receive a lot of books. Blah blah blah. Yeah, sure, whatever."
Yeah,
it's Schwab who's telling everybody we penetrate the cabinets.
Yeah, but
so
we really, and that's what I was saying. We're all plebs. And there's a select few people that have power. They want to keep that power, maintain it. And it's like the old saying, there's a club and you're not in it.
And you're not in it.
It's a big club and you're not in it. Yeah. And what bothers me, and maybe it's because I also studied communication science, you get taught over there about independent media and the role of independent media in a functioning democracy and stuff. Well, they called it communication science. So I mean, I'm literally a scientist by their definition, right? So
don't trust the science.
Don't trust the science.
Trust Marcus. Yeah, you're trusting the
science. That I do.
Yeah.
But the reality is completely different, where it seems to not be allowed to question, like the what's going on. And the minute you do question something, then they come up with these terms as WAPI, which basically means as much as a conspiracy theorist, and to just shut you down. It's just a discussion killer. So thank God for Twitter.
We had a great example. So a few days back, there were blockades from the farmers. I don't know. Plan Marcus surely heard that. Sean, I'm not sure, but there was a boy, 16-year-old, and his tractor got shot. Not sure if you heard that.
No, he got fired upon. Yeah.
Did he get?
So maybe we should actually show the clip. Yeah, there's this footage of it. I know like screen sharing is disabled right now.
Oh, it is? Let me hold on. Let me
yeah, I tried to share the USD euro thing earlier.
It always I gotta change that default. Okay, I think you can share now.
All right, hold on.
You have that clip?
Tractor. You're looking for the video quick.
Yeah, I talk a bit about it. The footage
Yeah,
was out.
go
It
ahead.
was on Twitter. It was everywhere, and
Yeah.
you could clearly see that the boy. You could not see it was a boy driving the tractor, but he was driving away from the police. And they turned to the tractor, and the guy just shot at the tractor. Later on, it was a 16-year-old boy driving that. But
Did they find out?
immediately,
Did
the
they find out who
news.
the police officer was, or did the police
Yeah,
officer?
yeah, sure. He's sick at home. He's also he's totally stressed out now. In the USA, it's a big difference. Yeah, but normally Dutch police is not very fast with shooting, not like the States.
Yeah.
But the media and the news immediately said the police were in danger, and he was driving towards the police. With the footage clearly shows it was not the case. So it was really crazy. It took a day, like 24 hours, before the media indeed told the true story. Crazy. You could see it. Everybody could see it.
Are you pulling up that clip,
Hey,
Mark?
when I saw, I still haven't found it. When I first saw the clip, you know, it's like you see this tractor driving out of this line. Okay, I've got the footage now. So let me just do a quick share screen here. Share screen. Do I have to pick the screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 1 second. I think it's over here.
Oh, so they shot at him right there when he was driving around.
So you see one tractor is driving away, and look, there's this other one also driving away.
Oh, okay, right
What does
there.
the police officer do?
Here he shoots.
Boom, boom, 2 shots,
Wow.
and it drives off. And obviously they didn't know that it was recorded. And when the police statement came out, the police statement said that this tractor was driving towards police officers, and that the police officers fired 2 warning shots. You know,
Wow.
that was the story. But then when you actually see the video, you see that this guy was just getting out of a line and driving away from them, and they tried to stop him by shooting at the cabin. And when I first saw this video, I was like, oh, surely they were just shooting at the tires to make him stop. No, but there was this other footage where you see like the actual bullet hole in the cabin of the driver, and the driver was a 16-year-old boy. So the police was not in danger here, and they actually opened fire. But yeah, this is again just some yeah.
I think it just goes to show that I think this is the biggest reason why Bitcoin has such a big use case, is trust is getting, everyone's having less and less trust in their government, and the people who were supposed to protect us and serve us and fight for us. We've gotten to the point where we're living in a trust minimized society. And Bitcoin gives power back to the people, because it's something that can't be debased by your government. It's something that can't be stolen, and it's something that can't be taken away from you. So I think that is what is so empowering about Bitcoin, is it truly provides freedom in times where you can have government overreach, you can have authoritarian leaders or oligarchs, whatever you have. No matter what country you're born in, well, maybe some countries don't let you buy Bitcoin, but most countries where you have access to get Bitcoin, it's a way to escape from that system. And that is what is so awesome about Bitcoin. And we need it in this time where there's protests. It's not like there's just protests going on in the Netherlands, and there were protests going all over the world for COVID, but now there's there's protests going on in Sri Lanka, there's protests going on in China right now. There's protests going on all over the world, and so you need to have something to protect you from your government.
Yeah, well said. You know, it's if you go back far enough in time, then governments were basically just people organizing to get stuff done for the community, right? Whether it was like early settlers that were starting like a new little settlement somewhere, and they figured, we maybe need some laws, or we need some protection, and we need people to do shifts, and you need some centrally planned, that's fine. That's okay, but we've shifted to this where governments and centrally planning organizations and the military and big tech or big corporations in whatever form, they've taken on such big roles now that we've become dependent on them, where they are no longer working for us, but they start seeing us as the ones that are working for them. And now they are actually working towards taking power away from us. And that's the world upside down. And that's where we don't want to head to. But the world is headed in that direction. More and more we are more dependent on big tech, big governments, whether it's money and Bitcoin just takes that power away from the government and hands it right back to the individual. And that is so powerful. It puts a check on the government again, because it forces the government to now I actually have to serve you again, to be able to, and I'm sure they'll try to coerce you or force you first. They'll be like, all right, give me your Bitcoin, like you're not allowed to have it, hand it in now, or face jail time or something. But yeah, it's just
two examples
giving the power back.
recently. Yeah, we take the power back, but two recent examples from the EU this time. They did a research on the EU citizens, and they could say what they thought about the QR and the digital ID. And they want to, of course, they want to implement it. They asked the citizens. They could tell what they thought about that. Like, I don't know, they got thousands of reactions. Everybody said no. And they implemented. They said it's not really implemented, but they will research it and will go on with the research for that. So everybody says no, we're still going to do it. And just yesterday, I think there was a meeting in the EU about CBDCs, and they did the same. Like thousands and thousands of reactions of EU citizens saying no, we don't want that, and they just go on with it.
Yeah,
that's not how democracy is supposed to work. No way. It's chilling. What's they are not open about it. Yeah, it's scary. And of course we know what you can do with the CBDCs. At least we have an idea what they might do with CBDCs, and we know China. And China at this moment is also really exciting, I must say, because people are standing up. Well, everybody's going to stand up if they can't reach their bank account, but still, you have to be brave in China to stand up.
Yeah, so you're referring to that video, right?
Which one? The banks?
Yeah, this video was circulating yesterday. I think I saw it for the first time, where you saw these Chinese citizens actually protesting with like banners and saying that they were cut off. They realized that they were able to put money into the savings plan, but they were not able to withdraw anything.
Sounds like Celsius.
It sounds like another Red Bull. Whether or not it's actually banks having liquidity issues, like we posted it, and Agent Huddle, shout out to him as well. He said right away, yeah, but I've seen so many videos come out of China, also people dropping dead during COVID, that anything that comes out of China, you always got to be very wary of who made this video. Was it staged? Like, and so I don't know.
True, but this was real, and
I don't think it's a liquidity issue, because China has a central bank, the People's Bank of China, just like the United States. And I'm pretty sure that they have an FDIC insurance type thing on their bank accounts. I imagine it's not a liquidity issue, because they can print as much money as they want. I imagine it's more of a control issue, if indeed this is what's going on. And I think that's what's scary too, is because then there was other news that came out, because in China they have their digital ID. If it's red, that means that you've tested positive for COVID. And so there were a lot of these protesters who were targeted and their apps turned red, so they couldn't go outside. They didn't have access to anything because it looked like they had COVID and they tested positive for COVID. So, and that was done, and it was done when they never even tested positive for COVID, and it was done by their government officials, so they couldn't go out and protest. So just amazing. I think the biggest thing is when you give all this control to your government, then you give up the right, you give up your freedoms, and to get those freedoms back, you don't just ask for them back, you have to fight for them, which is scary. But if you decide that you want your freedoms, it comes with more responsibility. And I think a lot of people would rather sacrifice the responsibility that comes with freedom to have the convenience that comes with control. But it's a short-term convenience, because in the long run, it's not convenient. You end up in some type of serfdom or captivity or slavery when you could have had freedom, but it just takes a little bit more personal responsibility.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I have to say at this moment, whether it's a liquidity problem or not, I believe it's like 4 or 5 banks who really shut off access for people to get to their cash. And I've seen indeed quite a few riots already, and indeed the COVID, the QR turning red, it happened. So it's really scary. And if you think about it, this might be where we might be at the same spot in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And we should really fight against that.
Yeah.
Sean, have you experienced using like a QR code and getting the green screen to go into like bars or restaurants, or getting a red screen when it's negative?
No, I never had like an app. When I was in Spain, there was a short period where you had to have the vaccine, or you couldn't get into restaurants, you couldn't get into events and certain things like that. And I'm not vaccinated. So I remember I went to a restaurant. I was on a date one time with this girl, and I went to a restaurant. She was vaccinated, I wasn't. We sit down, and I was getting tests every week though, because I had to get tested to play basketball. Either you had to have the vaccine or you had to get tested every week. So I was getting tested every week. And so I showed him I had a negative test, and the waiter, and he said, no, that doesn't work. You have to have the vaccine or you can't eat here. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't have the vaccine. And then his boss came out, which was a lady. And then I was like, look, I have the test that's negative from just a couple of days ago. And she was like, okay, that's fine. And so she let me stay, luckily, but there were some times that you just couldn't go into places because you had to have the QR code. And it wasn't like red or green. It wasn't like an app that would change colors on you. It just, you had to have the QR code that you got the vaccine.
Did you smash?
What?
Did you smash?
I don't, gentleman doesn't kiss and tell.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm waiting.
Just a joke.
I'm waiting for marriage for my first kiss.
I don't believe you.
Why do you ask?
Crazy.
Why do you ask, Marcus?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize we talk about China with these red screens and cutting people off, but it literally happened here. It was insane. We got locked down.
It happened in Europe.
And I was confronted with, like having to download an app, which I refused. I refused to use it.
Yeah.
Like after 3 confrontations and discussions with like one at the sports club of my son, it was like, okay, it doesn't make sense arguing with random people, because like you said earlier, Limburg, like 80% of people just comply and agree with it.
They'll
and
fight.
They just don't see that they're giving up. Yeah, exactly.
They'll fight for their own slavery. They don't realize that they're fighting for their own slavery.
There's been so much good memes made about this, like these birds in a cage looking at this free bird flying around and saying, look at that crazy idiot, he's spoiling it for all of us, like they're happy to be in a cage safe.
He's putting us in danger.
Yeah.
He's putting us in danger. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
saw him today from
Klaus
Johnson
Schwab.
Abata from Nigeria. Shout out
I
to him too, my friend.
I love that you know who made it, and I love that you know the meme. Exactly.
Yeah,
You
it's
should.
great meme, great meme. And I remember those days too. There were all restrictions and everything locked down, and the pubs were also everything was closed. We had a great Bitcoin meeting in those days. We couldn't go anywhere. At first, we wanted to meet in a pub or whatever, and we said, "Fuck it." We went out in nature, in the middle of nowhere, in a field. Like I don't know, 20 guys. Uh, we're all over there. One pulled out a barbecue, one pulled out a party tent. It was
Yeah.
like 7 degrees outside. It was the day after Christmas, the 27th. It was like 6, 7 degrees, rainy. We had fires, and we were all chatting Bitcoin, having the time of our life, drinking beer till deep in the night. It was really awesome. We just said,
Awesome.
"Fuck it, we're gonna meet. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk
Right.
Bitcoin."
Look, just to be fair, right? Because we were saying this thing is never going to go away. This QR code, we're going to be like China 2.0, and the people who took the other side were saying, well, look, we have this pandemic here, right? People are sick, so it's just emergency measures. It's not going to be permanent. It's going to be gone. Right now, they're gone. You know, there's no more lockdown. Nobody has to show any QR code unless you're traveling. You know, like at the airport, it's still there, obviously. But let's see what happens in the next couple of years, right? Because
they're still
we
pushing
do
the
know
vaccines.
we do know that that app and all the infrastructure, you know, like the rails behind it, is still in place. That whole database of vaccinations and if you're boosted or not is still there. It's also tied to like your digital ID. So I have a feeling, personally honest, that this thing is going to make a comeback and that they're going to normalize using a QR code in daily life, going to a concert, going to a movie. And that's just my dystopia, a world I don't want to live in. I don't know if I have any say in it, and I don't know if I kind of feel like it's inevitable. Naysayers will be like, well, don't be so crazy. And even if it does happen, then it's, you know, it's not really a hassle and it's not really an issue, right? Because we're all agreeing to it together. And it's also very handy because now I can just do a single sign in and we can use it to log into Facebook and Google as well, which the European Union is planning. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Don't you see like the dangers of this? You know, but we'll see.
And what's scary also is that a lot of people now totally seem to have forgotten what happened during those days. It's gone. It's like nobody knows anymore. What? We're just living our lives. It's like poof. But it can be right, like Marcus said. Who knows when they're gonna start again?
Yeah. Well, fellas, I enjoyed this chat with you guys a ton. It's great. I mean, I know Bitcoiners go strong in the Netherlands with good reason, but Netherlands is a beautiful country. Thanks again, Limburg, for coming on. Plan Marcus, as always. Just a reminder to everyone watching, we have Cody from, he'll be joining the Meme Factory podcast this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. live. Don't miss out. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe. If you learned something today or found it valuable, give us a review. And as for Bitcoiners Guide, episode 21 from Limburg3rt. Is that how you pronounce it? Limburg?
Yes, Limburg3rt.
Limburg3rt.
In Dutch we say Limburg3rt.
Limburg3rt.
Of Limburger.
From Limburg3rt.
Limburg3rt. Yes. And thanks for having me. I had a blast. Really awesome to be here. So thank you both.
Thanks again.
Right, thank you, man. Great to have you on.
Thanks everyone for watching. From Plan Marcus and Big Sean, we're over and out. Peace.